And if you let it off.
Good morning and happy snow day. Welcome to the First Universalist Church of Yarmouth. My name is Larissa Sellers. I am a worship assistant on our worship council, and I'm glad to be greeting you this morning. Given the stormy weather, our service is clearly a little different than usual, but even though we are not physically together in our sanctuary, mornings like this remind us that we can stay connected far beyond the walls of our church. Thank you for being here and for keeping our circle whole. At First Universalist, our mission is to explore our faith, embrace this community, and to engage the world as spiritual seekers. May we take these words to heart. Following our service this morning, you are welcome to stay on Zoom for a short time of fellowship. Unfortunately, you will need to bring your own coffee and snacks, but everyone here will be happy to see you. Before we begin our service, I have one announcement. Next Sunday, our mid-year service and chocolate communion, we will celebrate both of those during the service. Directly following our worship service, we will hold our mid-year meeting. All are welcome to attend as church members vote on First Universalist Building on Love Comprehensive Campaign. And just a note, we are aware that another blizzard is currently forecast for next weekend, believe it or not. So please check this week's channels and the church website and your local weather forecast for any changes to the worship plan. Happy winter in Maine, friends. So I now invite you to take a deep breath and stretch because you got a lot of room today. Okay, so stretch as we settle into this time together. Reverend Hillary, who's just now unstretching, will lead us into worship.
Good morning, friends. Happy snow day. That stretch felt very good, Larissa, after all the shoveling I did a little bit ago. So thank you for that. I'm Reverend Hillary, and with Peace and Friendship, I am so happy to welcome you on this stormy and now quite beautiful day into this warm circle of faithful friends. Our service this morning, though simple, will be spirit-filled. This is a time to simply touch in with one another, to hear some meaningful words, share what's on our hearts, sing a little, take a few breaths, and receive a blessing as we move forward into this day. And while I am sure that many of you prefer sitting in our sanctuary to sitting on your computer for our services, I have to say, given that our congregational theme for February is inclusion, it seems kind of fitting that we begin this month with a service that expands the love at the center of our community beyond the walls of our church building, all across this winter wonderland, to meet and include each of us where we are. Our words of invocation this morning are by the much beloved and renowned activist and visionary poet, Nikki Giovanni. I share her poem titled simply Winter Poem, and I'm putting the words of it in the chat if you'd like to read along. Winter Poem. Once a snowflake fell on my brow, and I loved it so much, and I kissed it, and it was happy, and called its cousins and brothers, and a web of snow engulfed me. Then I reached to love them all, and I squeezed them, and they became a spring rain, and I stood perfectly still and was a flower. Let's read it again. Once a snowflake fell on my brow, and I loved it so much, and I kissed it, and it was happy. And it called its cousins and brothers, and a web of snow engulfed me. Then I reached to love them all, and I squeezed them, and they became a spring rain, and I stood perfectly still and was a flower. Good morning, my snowy, yet still flowering friends. Will you join me now in saying our unison affirmation? Thank you, Joanna, for putting it in the chat. We are united in seeking to increase love with justice and to constitute a free church open to all people. Mindful of our past and drawing upon modern knowledge, we respond to the spiritual needs of persons and are devoted to the common good in community, nation, and world. We cherish the integrity of each individual and search for truth with reason as our guide. We respect differences of opinion and strive to be a democratic community. We are concerned with this world and open to the future. And if you have a chalice or candle at home right now, I invite you to bring it near. Oh my goodness, there's 53 of you all of a sudden. There was like 32 a second ago. Good morning, everyone. Great to see you. And will you join me now in our chalice blessing and hold up your lights if you have one? We light our chalice in peace and friendship. Beautiful. Let it be so. Our opening hymn is a familiar one, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. And we have a short video of it that will play, and you are invited to sing as softly or loudly or not at all-ly, whatever feels right to you this morning. Thanks, Joanna.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. 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 Ours is no caravan.
Good morning, Gwen.
Morning. Um, so this month we are exploring the practice of inclusion. In other words, how we practice not leaving people out. So with that in mind, Hillary and I want to share with you a special story with you. And this story comes from a Middle Eastern Islamic folktale that is called Mullah Nasruddin Feeds His Coat.
And before we tell this wisdom tale, we should know a few things about it. This story takes place during Ramadan. And Ramadan is a holy time in the Muslim tradition during which practitioners don't eat any food or drink or don't eat any food or drink any water from sun up till sundown. And every day for a month, they then break their fast with a large meal at the end of the day.
Now, the story begins like this. One day, Mullah Nasruddin had been working in the fields all day long. He was tired and sweaty, and his clothes and his shoes were covered with mud and stains. Because he had been fasting all day long for Ramadan, he was also quite hungry. But finally, it was almost sundown, and Nasruddin knew that he would soon be able to eat.
The wealthiest man in town had invited everyone to come break their fasts in his home that evening with a huge feast. Nasruddin knew that he would be late if he went home to change his clothes before heading into town. He decided it was better to arrive in dirty clothes than to be late. Oh, what a party it would be! What a feast! And he walked to the wealthy man's home. Nasruddin imagined the delicious foods he would soon be eating: dates and lentils, chickpeas, olives, bread, hummus, falafel, chicken beef, and best of all, the desserts, the halva, date rolls, figs, baklava.
When Nasruddin arrived, the wealthy man opened the door and looked Nasruddin up and down scornfully, from his worn, ragged clothes down to his muddy shoes. Without a word of welcome, he gestured for Nasruddin to come in and walked abruptly away.
Nasruddin joined the throngs of people who were all dressed in their finest clothing. The tables were laden with all sorts of delicious foods, the dates and lentils and chickpeas, olives, bread, hummus, and the desserts, the date rolls, the figs, the baklava.
Despite his efforts to hurry, the seats were all taken, and nobody tried to move over or make space for Nasruddin. In fact, nobody offered him food. He had to reach over and around people to get any food for his plate. Nobody spoke to him. It was as if he wasn't even there.
The other guests ignored him so completely that Nasruddin could not enjoy the food on his plate, no matter how finely prepared and how tasty it was. In fact, after only a few bites, Nasruddin was so uncomfortable, he decided to leave.
So he hurried home and changed into his finest clothing, including a beautiful coat. Nasruddin returned to the feast, and this time the host welcomed him with a huge smile. Come in, greeted the host. As Nasruddin entered, people waved and called to him from all corners of the room as they invited him to sit near and offered him food.
Nasruddin sat down quietly, picking up a plump pear. He carefully placed it into his coat pocket, saying, "Eat, coat, eat." And next, he took a handful of nuts and put them into his pocket, saying, "Eat, coat, eat."
He fed the coat lentils and chickpeas, hummus, falafel, chicken and beef, bread, dates, halva, figs, and baklava.
Everyone there became silent as they watched this strange behavior. And soon everyone in the room was staring at Nasruddin, wondering what he was doing. The host hurried over. Nazruddin, what are you doing? Why are you feeding your coat in this manner?
Well, replied Nasruddin, when I first came to this feast in my old farming clothes, I was not welcome. No one would speak with me. But when I changed into this coat, suddenly I was greeted warmly. I realized it was not me that was welcome at this party, but my clothing. And so I'm feeding my coat.
And that's the end of our story. This story of Mullah Nasruddin is a reminder to us about how exclusion happens when people care more about what's on the outside than what's on the inside. Inclusion then isn't just about allowing people to be present in a space, but making room for them at the table, passing a plate, offering to share, and inviting them into the conversation, no matter what coat they are wearing. And here ends our story. Thanks, Gwen. Friends, we now come to the time of our service that we set aside for quiet prayer and meditation. If you are listening to this service while working on a project at home or eating breakfast or moving around, I invite you during this time to just set down what's in your hands and sit down. Just let yourself be still and quiet for a moment. This is a time to offer a prayer for those in need of a prayer, a time to reflect on the past week or look forward to what might come in the hours and days ahead, or simply be here now, in this moment, and all that it offers us in sensation and emotion. Following our time of quiet, we'll have a time to share our joys and sorrows. First, though, friends, will you join me in taking a deep, refreshing breath in, a calming breath out, and relax into this sacred time of silence. All that has been shared, for all we hold inside, for all we simply do not have the words to explain. We hear you, we hold you, and we pray for your immediate comfort, continued joy, a path forward, and the seeds of peace emerging and continuing right now. Let it be so, and amen. Amen.
Our half plate offering today will be shared with Safe Maine. Safe Maine is Maine's only statewide abortion fund. Since 1989, SAFE has served Mainers and people who travel to Maine to ensure that they can access the abortion care they need. SAFE serves 280 individuals annually with grants totaling nearly $80,000. In partnership with Maine Family Planning and the Mabel Wadsworth Center, SAFE helps with costs for transportation and aftercare supplies and offers educational programming and reproductive wellness kits. You are invited to make your offering this morning using the donate button in the order of worship or by dropping a check in the mail. Thank you for your generosity.
Thanks, Larissa. And thank you all for your generosity again. I offer a reading this morning from Bell Hooks, from her enduring and best-selling book, All About Love. And this is a shortened version of a reading I shared with our Lectio Divina group a couple weeks ago. And I mentioned it in my sermon last week, and it continues to remain on my mind. And I felt it important to share and lift up with you all this morning. And for those who haven't been to Lectio Divina, don't worry, we're not going to do a whole Lectio Divina practice right now. But the practice really is about looking at a text and seeing what arises for you, what stands out, what words pop out, what words kind of jostle something in you, stirs your spirit. And then what thoughts, what feelings, what memories arise for you. And so I'm going to share this reading from Bell. It includes the phrase we share a lot at church. In fact, we have a banner that even reads it, which is "Love is an action." And it explains a little bit more by what she means when she says love is an action. Something important to remember in these times. And so that said, I put this reading on slides if you'd like to read along. And as I read it, I'll read it slowly and just let it wash over you and see what comes up for you. And if you want to play around with this reading further, just send me an email or mention it to me in our time of fellowship after this, and I can email you a copy. An excerpt from All About Love by Bell Hooks. So many of us long for love, but lack the courage to take risks. Even though we are obsessed with the idea of love, the truth is most of us live relatively decent, satisfying lives in which love is lacking. We have relationships in which we share affection and care, and for most of us, that feels like enough because it's usually a lot more than we received in our families of origin. Far too many people in our culture do not know what love is. And when the very meaning of the word is cloaked in mystery, it should come as no surprise that most people find it hard to define what they mean when they use the word love. Imagine how much easier it would be for us to learn how to love if we began with a shared definition. The word love is most often defined as a noun, yet all the more astute theorists of love acknowledge that we would all love better if we used it as a verb. To begin by always thinking of love as an action rather than a feeling is one way in which anyone using the word automatically assumes accountability and responsibility. We are often taught we have no control over our feelings, yet most of us accept that we choose our actions. If we were constantly remembering that love is as love does, that we do not have to love, that we choose to love, we would not use the word in a manner that devalues or degrades its meaning. When we are loving, we openly and honestly express care, affection, responsibility, respect, commitment, and trust. Definitions are vital starting points for the imagination. What we cannot imagine cannot come into being. A good definition marks our starting point and lets us know where we want to end up. Will you just take a short moment of quiet with me, friends, and see what you feel? Our closing hymn on this short and sweet snow day service is a song by a young songwriter, folk singer named Ali Halpert. She's a queer Jewish musician who writes songs for healing, transformation, and liberation. And she wrote the song Loosen, Loosen, which we sometimes sing at First U. We close our service today with another song by her titled I'm Not Alone. You may feel moved to sing along at points or just listen. I hope you enjoy and that it stirs your spirit. Thanks, Joanna, for playing it.
I'm not alone. 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 I forgot for a minute who I belong to. The Mama Earth, the wind and rain, the beauty and the pain. I'm not alone. For me, the world was created. I'm not alone. To dust I will return. I'm not alone. 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 I forgot for a minute who I belong to. The Mama Earth, the wind and rain, the beauty and the pain. I'm not alone. For me, the world was created. I'm not alone. To dust I will return. I'm not alone. 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 I forgot for a minute who I belong to. The Mama Earth, the wind and rain, the beauty and the pain. I'm not alone. For me, the world was created. I'm not alone. To dust I will return. I forgot for a minute who I belong to. The Mama Earth, the wind and rain, the beauty and the pain. I'm not alone. For me, the world was created. I'm not alone. To dust I will return.
Thank you all for joining our snow day service and reminding one another that we are not alone, that you are not alone. As we come to the close of our service, I again invite you into a spirit of prayer and meditation for a closing benediction. May all beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings experience profound joy and the causes of profound joy. May all beings have a seat at the table. May all beings know what true and real love is. And may all beings get free together. And will you join me in the words of our unison benediction? Joanna just put them in the chat. For those who come here seeking God, may God go with you. For those who come embracing life, may life return your affection. For those who come to seek a path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step. Happy snow day, everyone. The service begins and the shoveling begins when the service ends. Stay warm and safe out there. Go Eagles, I guess, and be in touch if you need help with anything right now. Stick around for some fellowship if you'd like to catch up with one another. So good to see you. Ah.